welcome back to lowcarbrecipe.ideas.com. Today we're going to make a delicious meal. It's going to be a low-carb chicken parmesan stuffed spaghetti squash. It's absolutely delicious. We're going to have some parmesan sprinkled on top, some marinara sauce, and these breaded chicken. And it's really, really good. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make it. We're going to get our spaghetti squash ready to bake. So I'm just going to, I put a little slash in there already. I'm just going to puncture the spaghetti squash and I'm going to put it in the microwave for approximately 4 minutes to soften it up, and it'll make it a little easier for us to take it and cut it. So I just took it out of the microwave and now we're going to get our knife and cut through. Lots of times I have my husband do it because I find it hard to cut, but if you just microwave it a little bit, I think that makes it, oh, it's getting too hot here. If I can get through that stem. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is get a spoon and we will scrape out the innards. Okay, so we got all the innards taken out that we don't want. I'll set that aside. And now I'm going to take some olive oil and I'm just going to, I'll set this down, make it easier, baste it with olive oil. And you can use a lot just to keep it nice and moist when we're baking it. Now we're going to add some salt and pepper. So I'm just going to shake my salt and pepper onto the spaghetti squash just to give it some flavor. So the next thing I'm going to do is I put wax paper on my cookie sheet, my baking sheet. So we're going to just take them and turn them upside down to get it ready to put in the oven. But before I do, I'm going to actually work on my chicken so that I can bake it all together. And I'm going to use the same pan. So I've got my chicken breast. I'm using 2, and the squash is not that big, so I might not need all of it, but I'm doing 2 for this video. Get myself organized here. There we go. So we're just gonna slice them almost like chicken fingers, and I have the recipe of my chicken fingers online already, but that's with 5 breasts. And I'm only just using the 2 for this recipe. There we go. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to have to wipe my hands here. We're going to coat them. So what I've got, I have my pork rinds, baconettes. I've used half of the package. It's $1.99 for this package, and I'm using half. And this is an excellent snack for anybody that's eating low carb, because the carb count, 9 pieces, it's 90 calories, and your carb count, I gotta find it here, is 1 gram, no fiber. So it's for 9 pieces, it's 1 gram. So it is actually a really good snack to be eating. And you can just see it's pork rinds here. So what I've done is taken half of the bag and I've taken my pie crust roller and I pounded it and rolled it down to make it really, really fine. So now with the chicken, I'm going to baste them with some olive oil. So I'm just going to take it and brush it on both sides, get both sides done here. Flip over. And if you'd like, you can use an egg, but I find this works beautifully and they come out nice and crispy. Oh, this one didn't come apart here. There we go. So we'll just baste it. Oh, I guess I forgot one important thing. With the pork rinds, I add a little bit of spice. So I will wipe my fingers again. And with the pork rind, I've got a quarter of a teaspoon of pepper, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half teaspoon of sea salt. So we're just going to mix that all up. And then I'm going to put our chicken pieces in. And I'm going to put it on the same baking sheet as the squash. Now, like I said, I put parchment paper on the baking sheet. I've got my squash on one end, I've got my chicken fingers on the other end. I'm going to put it in the oven on the middle rack, 375, for approximately 35 to 40 minutes. Now, I'm almost cooking the chicken and the squash, so I'm just going to take a minute and I'm going to turn these over. So halfway through the time I turn it over. Oh, they look delicious. They really do. And then I'm going to put them back in the oven for the rest of the time. So my chicken tenders are finished, or my chicken breast strips are finished. I'm going to take them out, just set them aside, and I'm going to put the squash back in for another 10 minutes. I poked a knife in it and it's soft, but I'd like it a little wee bit softer. So I will put them back in. I've taken my squash out of the oven, and now I'm just going to take my fork and I'm going to loosen up all the spaghetti. I already did it to the other one. It's quite warm. So we loosen it all up. This is a very delicious dish. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a quarter cup of my marinara sauce that I had made earlier, specifically for this, but like I said, I use it for so many things. So I'm using a quarter of a cup here. Mix it in there. And now I'm going to get my chicken. Now we're going to take my breaded chicken and we're just going to put it inside the squash. Now this is a small squash, but it's still a very, very filling meal for the size that it is, because you get quite a bit of squash in there too. There we go. I do have one extra slice left. I could probably put in there, but I think I'll just keep it aside. And then I'm going to take my tomato sauce again and another quarter of a cup, and I'm going to put it on top. And then I've got grated Parmesan cheese. Now I find I don't use tons of Parmesan cheese, so what I've done is I've shredded mine and I have froze it. So right now it's frozen, but we're just going to put this on top. So I'm basically putting a half a cup of shredded cheese on top of each squash. I think I'll put a little tiny bit more on this one. And then we're going to put it back in the oven at 375 for another 15 minutes, and then we're all set to go. So here is my low-carb chicken parmesan stuffed in spaghetti squash. It smells delicious. Very, very good. That's a whole meal in itself. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So we made homemade marinara sauce. And something, I did make an error on the measurements for the breading for the chicken fingers. Sorry. And it's supposed to be 1/4 teaspoon of the salt and the garlic salt and 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. I will have it on the video so you'll see that also. But that was an error when I was doing my recipe. So anyway, I hope you get to enjoy and try this recipe. It is absolutely delicious. Go to lowcarbrecipe.ideas.com, try this recipe, and try some of my other ones. You take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.